Hi everyone and welcome to the part 9 of our AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner series. So without further ado, let's get started. So the question number 1 is that a company wants to operate a data warehouse to analyze data without managing the data warehouse infrastructure. Which AWS service will meet this requirement? And the options are option A, Amazon Redshift serverless, option B, Amazon Aurora, option C, Amazon Lambda, and option D, Amazon RDS. And the correct option is Amazon Redshift serverless. So the Amazon Redshift serverless, it basically makes it easier to run and scale analytics in seconds without having to set up, manage, or scale data warehouse infrastructure. And these are some of the feature of Amazon Redshift that it provides us with easy analytics, and it is very scalable and give us performance at any scale. And it can be used to analyze all of your data, as well as it is secure and compliant. The question number 2 is that how does AWS cloud computing help business reduce costs? And this is a very basic question, and we have to choose two options. The option A is AWS does not charge for data sent from AWS cloud to the internet. Option B is AWS enables capacity to be adjusted on demand. Option C is AWS eliminates many of the costs of building and maintaining on-prem data centers. And option D is AWS charges the same prices for services in every AWS region. And the correct options are that AWS enables capacity to be adjusted on demand. And the second correct option is that AWS eliminate many of the costs of building and maintaining on-premise data center. Question number 3 is that a company wants to grant users in one AWS account access to resources in another AWS account. The user do not currently have permissions to access the resources. Which AWS service will meet these requirements? And the options are option A, IAM role, identity and access management role, option B, IAM group, option C, IAM tag, and option D, IAM access analyzer. And the correct option is IAM role. So the IAM role, it basically it is our roles. IAM roles are basically the entities that provide access to different AWS resources based on the level of permission that they have. Instead of being uniquely associated with one person, a role is intended to be assumed by anyone who needs it. So it is basically typically the role is a container, and it has permission, and this container or this role can be assigned to any user, such as we have seen that in Windows we have the administrator role. So if you create a user with the name of John, and then you assign John to this administrator role or this administrator group, then John will have all the permission that the administrator has. So the administrator is basically a role, and it has specific set of permissions, and any user that is given that role, it also has the same permission. So instead of if we, let's suppose, create another user Mike, instead of giving permissions to these users one by one, we can just create a role and then assign these users to this role. So this way it is easy to manage the users and the permissions. And this is just a visual view that we have permissions or policies, and basically these permissions are assigned to the roles. So the roles have these permission, and then the user can obtain these roles to have these permissions. Question number 4 is that which task is the responsibility of AWS when using AWS services? And we have, again, this is the cloud is basically a shared responsibility model. Some responsibilities are that of the cloud provider such as AWS, while some are the customer responsibility. So this question is again about the shared responsibility model. And the options in the question are option A, management of IAM user permissions. Option B, maintenance of physical and environmental controls. Option C, application of Amazon EC2 operating system patches. And option D, creation of security group roles for outbound access. And the correct option is that the AWS or cloud provider is basically responsible for the maintenance of physical as well as environmental control. So the AWS or the cloud provider in general is basically responsible for the physical security and as well as the environmental control of the data center, while the rest, the IAM user permissions, the patching of operating systems, and the creation of security group or the configuration of firewalls, it is basically the responsibility of the customer. And again, this diagram is very useful, and I have used it many times. So you must keep this diagram in mind because it clarifies the customer and the cloud provider responsibility. So here the customer is, as we saw in the question, responsible for IAM management or identity and access management, configuration of the firewall, the client side as well as the server side encryption, and etc. While the physical infrastructure security is the responsibility of the cloud provider, we can also say that it is the security of the cloud, while the customer is responsible for security in the cloud. So the physical infrastructure such as the compute, storage, database, network, as well as the security and environmental control of physical infrastructure locations, geographical locations such as region, availability zone, edge location, as well as the data centers inside these availability zone is responsibility of the cloud provider. Question number 5 is that a company wants to automate infrastructure deployment by using infrastructure as a code. The company wants to scale production stack so the stack can be deployed in multiple AWS regions. Which AWS service will meet these requirements? And the options are option A, Amazon CloudWatch, option B, AWS Config, option C, AWS Trusted Advisor, and option D, AWS Cloud Formation. And the correct option for the AWS infrastructure as a code or IAC service is AWS Cloud Formation. So AWS Cloud Formation lets you model, provision, and manage AWS and third-party resources by treating infrastructure as code. So AWS IAC or infrastructure as a code is basically the service provided by the Cloud Formation. This is a visual of the Cloud Formation. So here it lets you can code your infrastructure from scratch with the Cloud Formation template language in either YAML or JSON format, or start from any available sample templates. Then you can check out your template code locally or upload it into an S3 bucket, and then the AWS Cloud Formation can be used via the browser console or the command line tool or API to create a stack based on your template code, and the output is AWS Cloud Formation provisions and configures the stacks and resources that you specified on your template. Question number 6 is that a company is running a workload in the AWS cloud. Which AWS best practice ensures the most cost-effective architecture for the workload? And the options are A, right sizing, B, loose coupling, C, caching, and D, redundancy. And the correct option is the right sizing. So the right sizing, it is basically the recommendations feature in Cost Explorer that helps you identify cost saving opportunities by downsizing or terminating EC2 instances. Right sizing recommendation analyze your Amazon EC2 resources and usage to show opportunity for how you can lower your spending. And this is basically an example that here using this feature, you can analyze the resources that have very underutilization or very little usage. Here we can see that some instances are having very low usage, and then using this tool, you can then save your cost by eliminating or efficiently using these resources. And these are the options that you can identify the idle instances that are not used or the underutilized instance. So here these are underutilized instances, and these are the estimate monthly cost that can be saved by either downsizing or by altogether eliminating these instances. Question number 7 is that a company is using a third-party service to back up to 10 terabyte of data to a tape library. The on-prem backup server is running out of space. The company wants to use AWS service for backup without changing its existing backup workflows. Which AWS service should the company use to meet these requirements? And the options are option A, AWS Storage Gateway, option B, AWS Lambda, option C, Amazon Elastic Container Service or Amazon ECS, option D, Amazon Elastic Block Store or Amazon EBS. And the correct option is the Amazon Storage Gateway. So the Amazon Storage Gateway is a service that connects an on-prem software appliance with cloud-based storage to provide seamless and secure integration between your on-prem IT environment and the AWS storage infrastructure in the AWS cloud. And this diagram will give you the accurate understanding of this concept. So here we have on-prem IT infrastructure, and we want to use the storage inside the cloud. So what we can do, we can use this storage gateway, and this is also the storage gateway is also on the on-prem. And what is it? The storage gateway can either be VMware, Hyper-V, KVM, Amazon EC2, or an hardware appliance. And then this connects through secure HTTPS to the AWS Storage Gateway Managed Service, which then provides access to the storage. So your application from your on-prem can then use seamless storage utilization from the AWS cloud using this storage gateway. Question number 8 is that which tasks are the customer's responsibility according to the AWS shared responsibility model? Again, we are talking about the shared responsibility model. We have to choose two options. And the options are option A, perform client-side data encryption. Option B, establish the global infrastructure. Option C, configure IAM credential. And option D, secure edge locations. And the correct option is perform client-side encryption and configure IAM credentials. So again, the client side as well as server side data encryption and the configuration, provision of permission and IAM credential configuration and user permission. These all are the customer's responsibility. While the global infrastructure, which include the availability region, availability zone, AWS regions, edge locations, these all are the responsibility of the cloud provider, or we can say that AWS in this case. So let me explain again. This is the shared responsibility model diagram. And here we can see that the client side data encryption is the responsibility of the customer, as well as the configuration of IAM or IAM, identity and access management. This is also the responsibility of the customer. Question number 9 is that a developer has been hired by a large company and needs AWS credentials. Which are security best practices that should be followed? And we have to choose two options, and the options are: A, grant the developer access to only the AWS resources needed to perform job. Option B, share the AWS account root user credential with the developer. Option C, ensure the account password policy requires a minimum length. And option D, add the developer to the administrators group in the AWS IAM. And the correct options are that the developer must be granted access to only the resources needed to perform the job. This is also known as the least privilege, that the user should be granted the limited or the least privilege that are required to perform their tasks, and that the account must have minimum password length requirement. Question number 10 is that a company wants a fully managed Windows file server for its Windows-based application. Which AWS service will meet these requirements? And the options are: option A, Amazon FSx; option B, Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service or Amazon EKS; option C, Amazon Elastic Container Service, Amazon ECS; and option D, Amazon EMR. And the correct option is Amazon FSx. So Amazon FSx for Windows File Server provides fully managed Microsoft Windows file servers that are backed by Windows file system. So that's all for today. So please contribute by subscribing and liking the video. Thank you, and see you in the next video.